Hey there, everybody. So this past weekend was D23, and there was just a ton of news that has come out in regards to all of that. So I thought, who better to unpack all this breaking news with than with you guys? So yeah, I'm gonna be working my way through the D23 news. Obviously, there was a lot that came out during this weekend, so I'm not gonna be able to get as in depth with everything. We'll get in depth with some things, but if I talked in depth about everything that came out, this would be like a feature-length video. So we're gonna try to not make it go that far. So yeah, we're just gonna kind of bang through a lot of these different topics. I'm gonna try to put some video descriptions or timestamps in the description below to kind of give you guys an idea as to when we're talking about certain stuff. So as long as I remember, they'll be down in the description below. All right, so first things first, what is D23? D23 is an expo that happens biannually where basically Disney shows off a bunch of stuff that they're working on, makes a lot of reveals, releases, all that good stuff. Think something like E3, only happening once every 2 years and completely Disney-centric. So much like in D23s in the past, a ton of new stuff in all facets of Disney was released. And seeing as Disney is getting bigger and bigger and is much bigger now, as crazy as it seems, now than they were 2 years ago, yeah, there was a lot to talk about. So I guess we'll start with the Disney parks. Also, forgive me, guys, I have my notes right over here because there's so much to talk about. You probably will see me referencing the notes every now and again. So apologies if that's distracting me, just looking off camera every now and again. So one of the big pieces of news to come out in regards to Disney parks is the Magic Happens Parade, which is a new parade that will be coming to Disneyland. It's going to be featuring music from Todrick Hall, who is at least I know him as a YouTuber and a music producer on here. Does a lot of very cool stuff, a lot of cool Disney stuff, so you should definitely check him out. If you don't know him already. What's cool with this is they showed us some of the concept art for some of the floats. Some of the floats that are going to be featured are things like Moana, Coco, Sleeping Beauty, and man, the floats look very cool. Particularly the Moana float looks very gorgeous, but I love the concept of the Coco float. It has like the marigold bridge and all that stuff, so very cool. Everyone loves parades, so that should be fun to check out. So that's over in California. Back in Florida at Hollywood Studios, it was a very sad day for me a few years ago when they closed the Great Movie Ride. It was one of those rides that I always enjoyed as a kid. But they did close it sadly. But in its place will be will be a ride called, hold on, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, which is basically going to be in the same spot that the Great Movie Ride was. From what I understand, it's going to be a ride that takes you through the world of the Mickey and Minnie shorts that have currently been airing on Disney Channel. So it should be a kind of a cool, different art style. It's also going to be the first ever ride to feature Mickey and Minnie. The first ever dark ride to feature Mickey and Minnie. So that's very cool, pretty historic. So yeah, that's another addition to Hollywood Studios, which they've been slowly making more and more additions to. So definitely trying to beef that up, which is good after a few years of really kind of being under construction and not exactly worth the visit. By the way, the majority of this stuff is coming in 2020. So almost everything that I'm talking about, unless otherwise specified, is probably going to be sometime in 2020. I'll try to be good about giving you guys approximate dates. But for the most part, a lot of this stuff is coming next year, but still exciting nonetheless. Outside of the U.S., there was some news when it came to the Disney parks. You had Disney Shanghai is going to be getting a Zootopia-themed land world. Basically, it'll be the first bit of Zootopia that's ever showed up in a Disney park before, so that's kind of cool. No set date for when that's going to happen. I think that this was just announced. I don't think they've even broken ground on it yet. Concept art looks very cool. It seems like it's going to be almost in like a Animal Kingdom-esque idea because Zootopia takes place in a world of animals. So I think that that's kind of the idea they're going for. So that looks like that'll be very cool. Hong Kong, meanwhile, is getting a Frozen world. Again, I don't think there's been any date announced for when that's happening, but again, Frozen, especially with Frozen 2 coming out, is multi-billion-dollar product, so it's not shocking that some worlds coming down. Hong Kong and Shanghai they get a lot of the cool stuff too. Speaking of Hong Kong, they're also going to be revamping their castle. It's going to have basically it's going to be like a projector base so that they can kind of change the look of it, do shows on it, all that cool stuff. There's something similar that they have in Florida, so it's not shocking that that's something that they want to integrate in Hong Kong and Shanghai and some of the newer parks that have a bunch of the newer technology. Disney also announced this, and I'm pretty sure this had been announced in the past, but it's actually going to be opening soon is going to be the cable car system that's coming to Disney World. Basically, it's going to be a cable car system that takes you from 4 of the different resorts. I think they were the budget resorts from what I remember. And then they will be able to take you to Epcot or Hollywood Studios. So a little redundant because there's already so many different ways to get to those parks, be it the monorail, especially for Epcot, being the monorails, the ferries, and all that stuff. But it's another option. Hollywood Studios can sometimes be a little bit off the beaten path. So definitely a convenience option. Definitely kind of ups the value of those resorts because you have ease of access to certain parks. So hey, it's cool. It's not hurting anybody, right? So always fun. All right, big story number 1 though, and we're gonna be talking a lot more about Marvel stuff in a little bit. But the Marvel themed land is coming. Marvel themed world is gonna be coming to California, to Disneyland first, and then eventually to Disneyland Paris out in France. But yeah, basically it's going to be the Avengers compound, I think it's called, right? Avengers Campus. I was close. I knew it was a C word. The Avengers Campus, which is directly taken from the MCU, and the idea is going to be it's like you're walking into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So it looks very cool. Again, we've seen the concept art. It looks very modern, very sleek. Very, very much like out of the movie, like something that Tony Stark would have developed. So it is very cool. They've announced 2, I guess we'll call them attractions, experiences so far. The one is the Worldwide Engineering Brigade, which those of you savvy will know that the initials of that mean web. It's going to be basically a Spider-Man ride. From what I saw, it looks very similar to the Buzz Lightyear Ranger Spin, where you're shooting at the bad guys. Basically, it's going to give you a chance to feel like you're Spider-Man. You get to shoot your web shooters at, I think it was like spider robots or something like that. So, very cool. Again, we will get to the Spider-Man stuff in a minute. But yeah, that looks very cool. Again, Spider-Man's awesome. So, should be a fun ride. The other one, it's going to take you through Wakanda and take you through a big battle there. I think they were saying it's going to be very similar to something like out of Endgame. I'm sure more stuff is going to get announced. I'm sure more things are going to get announced as time goes on with that. That's a huge project that's going on there. And it's definitely going to make... that's going to be a huge destination to go to. We've seen in some of these other places, be it Universal Studios with the Harry Potter world, or most recently Disney World with the new Star Wars land that's opening up. If you open up a park or a land that's based around a incredibly popular pop culture thing, it becomes a mecca. It becomes a destination for people to make entire vacations around. So definitely smart to be getting in on this Avengers stuff. It's gonna be a little interesting just because I know some Marvel stuff had been at Universal Studios over the years, but I'm pretty sure some of that's being phased out because of Disney purchasing it. But yeah, so definitely will be very cool to check out, and it looks very, very cool so far. But big story number 2 that came out of all of this is all of the changes that are coming to Epcot over in Florida. So Epcot, I think we all sort of knew this was coming for a while. They closed Spaceship Earth. They were doing a revamp on that. But when you looked at the parks at Walt Disney World in Florida, Magic Kingdom got the big upgrade with New Fantasyland. We saw Animal Kingdom get a bunch of new upgrades with Pandora and all the nighttime stuff. We just saw the major additions that just happened at Hollywood Studios with the new Star Wars themed world and all that stuff. So it only made sense that Epcot was going to be the next one to get a major overhaul, and that's exactly what it's getting. Epcot's going to look a little bit different when it not when it reopens, but when all of this is done. Basically, Epcot, for those who are uninitiated, has always been kind of divided into 2 separate, distinct lands. You had the World Showcase, and then you had the basically the future, the experimental prototype city of tomorrow, all the future stuff on the other side. The World Showcase is pretty much going to remain untouched. They are going to be adding a little bit to it, though. Mary Poppins will finally be making an appearance in Disney Park. It seems amazing, incredible that a movie that was so popular, so beloved, and honestly so important to Disney has never really been featured in their parks before. So kind of crazy that's never happened. But Mary Poppins is now being integrated into the World Showcase, obviously into the England area. I get the impression they're going to be basically making Cherry Tree Lane. There's also apparently going to be an attraction there, which no one has really said much of what that is going to entail yet, which is probably why I forgot it. The other big addition to the World Showcase is going to be Ratatouille will be integrated into the France area, because of course that's a Pixar movie that took place in France. Obviously, if you're going to be doing Ratatouille related stuff, you need a restaurant, and there is going to be a restaurant. It is called There it is. Couldn't find it. La Crêperie de Paris, basically a place that sells crepes. So that'll be cool. The other big thing is there's going to be another attraction. I think it's going to be called Remy's. Oh my goodness. Remy's Ratatouille Adventure. There we go. Basically, it's going to be taking you through one of the Gusteau's restaurants, and you'll be like shrunk down to the size of a rat. That's the idea, at least. So yeah, some cool stuff there. At France are also going to be adding, I think it was the Beauty and the Beast like sing-along video thing. So yeah, some upgrades coming there. Always very exciting. But the real big story at Epcot is when you look at the future world, instead of just being one massive world, they're going to be dividing it into 3 different parts. So the 3 parts are going to be known as World Celebration, World Discovery, and World Nature. So World Celebration, that is going to be pretty much when you first walk into the park. That's where Spaceship Earth is going to be. Yes, Spaceship Earth will still be there, the giant golf ball, which, I mean, come on, it's one of the most iconic visuals in Epcot. So it's... yeah, it would have been devastating if that was not there anymore. They are changing the ride, though. Like I said, it has been closed for a while. They are revamping it, which was needed. Spaceship Earth used to be a story of technology and how technology has grown over the years and how we've utilized technology differently over the years. Obviously, the problem whenever you do something based on technology is technology is always changing, and therefore you're always going to have to stay on top of changing the ride in order to kind of keep up with technology. So instead, they're going to pivot a little bit to storytelling and storytelling through the ages and how it's affected human life and all of that stuff and the human experience in particular. Next up is World Discovery. World Discovery is basically going to be the part where Test Track and Spaceship Earth currently are already. I think I saw somewhere Spaceship Earth was getting a restaurant that had like this cool like panorama. It was something 220 because you're supposed to be seeing like the Earth from 220 miles in the air or something. So that looks really cool. But again, the big story there is again another piece of Marvel is going to be a Guardians of the Galaxy ride that will be coming to that area. It's going to be a roller coaster. It's called Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. It's going to feature a reverse launch into space, whatever that is. I assume that means the roller coaster is going to start by shooting backwards instead of forwards. So that's a cool little quirk. Yeah, so roller coaster. So another big ride coming to that area. That's definitely going to be a little more the thrill seeker area of Epcot. It looks like when you're talking about you having a roller coaster there, Spaceship Earth, and Test Track. So nice little niche for the big rides, it looks like. And again, more integration of Marvel stuff. And then, of course, the third part is World Nature, which, of course, will feature nature. I assume that that's kind of where the current, like, the Living Seas, or at least where the Living Seas used to be, where that Finding Nemo stuff is. They have the land. I know all of that is kind of... So I assume that that's going to be kind of integrating some of that stuff. They haven't announced a ton of new stuff for that. The one thing that I did see that looked kind of cool was it's called the World of Water. It's basically going to be I think a walkthrough attraction featuring Moana, and it's going to have basically enable guests to kind of play with this living water stuff. So again, seen some concept art for it. It looks very cool, kind of abstract. So not a ton of information about the World of Nature has come out yet, but again, all this stuff has just been announced. So I'm sure as more stuff gets built, we're going to hear more and more and more, which is definitely exciting. And the last thing to talk about with Epcot, and then we'll move on to some more stuff, or I guess the last part about the parks in general. They're going to have 2 new nighttime shows that are happening there. Now, I've always loved the nighttime shows at Epcot. I've always thought because they have the big lake, the big water thing, they've been able to integrate a lot of cool stuff with that, and the same looks to be happening here. The first one is going to be called Epcot Forever. It's going to start in October. It's going to be basically going through the past, present, and future of Epcot. So, cool little show, nothing crazy. The big show is going to be called Harmonious, though. Harmonious. Emphasis on the us. Basically, that's going to be a celebration of Disney music, which sounds awesome. It's supposed to be, they're saying, the largest nighttime spectacular in Epcot's history, which when you looked at some of the past things that Epcot has done, if this is even bigger and better, and again, anytime you're integrating Disney music, I'm always in. So this looks like a very cool nighttime show, attraction that I'm certainly looking forward to, hopefully getting to see one day in the very near future. So one of the other major talking points that came out of D23 was all the stuff coming to Disney Plus. Remember, Disney Plus is the streaming service that is coming out in November. So obviously, this was kind of the big push, the big rollout, where they kind of talked about a lot of the stuff. We knew a lot of these projects that were coming to Disney Plus. Some of them were just revealed, which is kind of cool. But yeah, some of them we knew about, and they just kind of talked a little bit more about. So some of the shows that are coming to Disney Plus, Encore, starring Kristen Bell. This was a show, they did a special, I remember. It was back in 2017, I think it was. Basically, Kristen Bell goes back to a high school, finds an old high school play they put on, finds the old cast from that high school play from, however many years ago, tries to get them all back together, and they try to put on the show again. It was a very cool concept. I really enjoyed the special when they showed it, because it was this kind of interesting mix of reality, but also theater. Very, very cool concept. So I'm very glad to see that they're going to be bringing this back as like as a full-on series, because it's something that I think definitely had some legs to it that I thought was unfortunate that it only had the one-off. But it's possible that they always planned to do this and they were just kind of waiting for Disney Plus in order to do it. They announced a show called The World According to Jeff Goldblum. I'm actually weirdly interested in this. So this is going to be basically, because I think they're like teamed up with National Geographic or something like that. But yeah, this is going to be a show where Jeff Goldblum, who I've always been fascinated by because he's a very quirky, strange actor. But it'll be him talking about various different topics. I think it was like the histories of like seemingly mundane things. But look, he's very quirky. He's very interesting. It seemed like a cool enough thing. A bunch of original, I think, movies is what they were. We had Noelle, which was announced, which is going to star Anna Kendrick, basically as Santa's daughter. So definitely going to be a Christmas-themed show movie. They showed, or they talked a little bit more about the Lady and the Tramp remake that's coming. Basically, it's going to be featuring real dogs, but with CGI enhancements. I'm very curious as to what that is going to look like. And then the other movie that I saw that they announced, which was not at all, at least I hadn't heard anything about it, was the Phineas and Ferb movie. I think it was like The Rise of Candace or something along those lines. Yeah, look, I always dug Phineas and Ferb. It was one of the cartoons that when my sister was watching when she was little that I enjoyed just as much watching with her. So Phineas and Ferb was awesome. What it did make me wonder, though, is because something like this not that long ago would have absolutely have premiered and aired on the Disney Channel. So it does make me wonder what the relationship between Disney Plus and the Disney Channel is going to be. How are they going to decide what goes to one and what goes to the other? So definitely something to kind of keep in mind, something that I hadn't really thought about and something I haven't seen too many people talking about. So yeah, that's just something that could spark my interest. Another movie that was confirmed to be set up for Disney Plus, exclusive to Disney Plus, is The Secret Society of Second Born Royals, which is starring Skylar Astin and Peyton Elizabeth Lee. Yeah, don't know too much about this one. It's a fantasy adventure film, fantasy action film, something along those lines. And basically it's going to be following a rebellious princess who's second to the throne and then finds out she has superpowers. So sounds a little quirky, sounds a little strange. Don't really know too much about it though, so I'm not going to make too many judgments on it. The other big things, there's a bunch of television shows, a bunch of exclusive shows that have been announced for Disney Plus. We had Muppets Now, which was kind of surprising. So we knew they were working on a Muppet show. This apparently isn't that. There's a Muppet show that Josh Gad was reportedly working on or with or was involved with, something along those lines. This apparently is not that. This is a different show. Not a lot of details about it. It looks like it's going to be like short form or something along those lines. So again, it's hard to comment too much before we know too much about it. I love the Muppets. I know that they've been kind of treated poorly for a length of time now, aside from, the Fantastic Muppets movie that came out a few years ago. But yeah, so hopefully that does well. Another TV show which was surprising to hear but super exciting is Lizzie McGuire. They're doing a reboot of that, yeah, they have Hilary Duff coming back as Lizzie McGuire. She's, I think, in her 30s now or something along those lines. And she has her dream job, she has her dream man and all that stuff. And so, again, I don't know a ton about necessarily the plot of it, but definitely tapping into that nostalgia market. We've seen Netflix have great success with that, with things like Fuller House. Look, the Lizzie McGuire show back in the day was very fun, so I'm certainly excited to see what they do with it. Hopefully it's not just like nostalgia stuff and it's actually a good show, but we will see. And the other big show that I want to talk a little bit about was High School Musical, the series, the musical. I think that's what it's called, right? It's something crazy like that. Yeah, so they released a trailer for this. So we knew this project was in development, or at least we knew a High School Musical project was in development. There's been rumors at least of a High School Musical project in development for, years and years and years. Because I remember they were originally talking about High School 4. There was something like East versus West situation, something like that. So this is something that they've been certainly working on for like a very long time. And now it's coming to fruition as a television series, which again, we'd known a little while ago they were going to be doing a TV series. Now, I think most people thought that when they were doing a television series for High School Musical, that it was going to be based on the world of High School Musical, just as a TV series. Excuse me, High School Musical, the series. My bad. But instead, so when we finally see the trailer, instead what it is, it's kind of a mockumentary style. Basically, it's taking place at the school that High School Musical was shot in. And the students there are going to be putting on High School Musical, the musical, and this is the show, the mockumentary style show of them putting on High School Musical, the musical in the high school that housed High School Musical. Very confusing, I know. But yeah, so not at all what I was expecting. There might be original songs, but all the songs we've heard so far in the trailer were basically this new cast, the cast who's putting on High School Musical, the musical, singing the original songs from High School Musical. It's very confusing. So definitely not what I was expecting. Not sure how I feel about it yet. Really, in terms of High School Musical in general, I was kind of fine with it being done. I understand why it's not, because it made a lot of money and it's immensely popular and launched a bunch of careers. But High School Musical, the first one, I've always adored. It's campy, it's stupid, but I love it, and I think a lot of people feel that way. Kind of the same thing with High School Musical 2. Silly, probably not as good as the first one, but still good. Third one I've only seen one time. It was a big budget movie, kind of weird, but hey, I was fine with it being done there. But of course, they've always been trying to milk that cow more. So now to see this. I was kind of accepting of a series. I'm a little more wary about this kind of mockumentary style. I'm getting a lot of Glee vibes from it. There's some funny lines in the trailer. I'm just, I'm curious. I'm probably going to check it out out of morbid curiosity, if no other reason. But yeah, I'm not like certain how I feel about it yet. So we'll see. Maybe as more stuff comes out about it, I'll make a more definitive decision about it. But of course, one of the big perks of Disney Plus, and one of the big parts of Disney Plus, is Marvel. So this is going to start our Marvel section of D23. Boy, is there a lot to talk about. We'll stick with Disney Plus for the moment. They went into a few more of the shows. Again, we had known about a lot of these shows already. They talked a little bit more about them. We have the Falcon and Winter Soldier. Basically, that's going to be following the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, played by Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan, respectively. Basically, in the events following Endgame. So we'll see how that goes. They announced a show for Moon Knight. That's a superhero that I know nothing about. So hard for me to comment too much about that. Same thing with a show for Ms. Marvel. Apparently she's stretchy. Again, don't know a ton about Ms. Marvel, so can only comment so much about it. They announced a show for She-Hulk. Didn't see that coming. Basically, She-Hulk is female Hulk. Again, not a ton of information on those at the moment, other than that it's She-Hulk. One of the shows they announced is WandaVision, on the nose naming. WandaVision is going to be starring Elizabeth Olsen as Wanda, or Scarlet Witch, and I forget who plays Paul Bettany, who plays Vision. And in the movies, it was kind of implied that they had a romantic relationship, and this show seems a little different from what we were expecting it to be. I wasn't really sure what to expect it to be, all things considered. I'm trying not to talk too many Marvel spoilers. I'm going to get into them later. I'll give you fair warning when all that happens. But yeah, the poster for it kind of threw me off. It looks like a very 1950s-esque poster. It looks like from what I understand, it's going to be like a sitcom of sorts. So yeah, that's interesting. Not what I was expecting, but interesting. And the last of the Marvel TV shows that I'll kind of talk about a little bit is the show What If, which is a super interesting concept. That was a very successful comic series, What If. And basically it's what if this happened. It's basically a bunch of alternate timelines or what ifs, basically. Like, if this happened, how would that have affected everything? So they've talked about an episode that's going to have Peggy Carter as Captain America. What if Peggy Carter became Captain America instead of the Captain America that we know? So yeah, that'll be a cool show. It'll be cool to kind of see the alternate timelines. I feel like they're going to have a lot of freedom with it because they're alternate timelines. You can do whatever you want with them. So definitely a cool idea with that. Yeah, and then we can move into the Marvel movies here. Okay, so I'm gonna talk about the Marvel movies that they kind of went into, and then I'm gonna get to the big elephant in the room, and we'll talk about that for a little bit. All right, so first up, they had the Black Widow movie. Apparently, they showed off some scenes from that. That's going to be the thing with a lot of these. If they showed off stuff at D23 and it hasn't been released yet, which a lot of the stuff that they showed there has not been released yet, not much I can really comment on it because I haven't seen it. But yeah, so they talked about the Black Widow movie. That looks like that'll be interesting. More and more ScarJo, and we get to see kind of more of that Black Widow character, and we've never really explored that in the movie. She's always been in the Avengers, and she's always been around. We just haven't explored her character too much, so that should be interesting. The Eternals, we got to see. Basically, they announced virtually the entire cast. Let's see here. We have Richard Madden, who's going to be Icarus. Kumail Nanjiani, who's going to be Kingo. Lauren Ridloff. Brian Tyree Henry, Salma Hayek, Liam McHugh, Don Lee, Angelina Jolie, and they also announced Kit Harington is going to be in the movie, so of Game of Thrones fame. So yeah, very big, very diverse cast. I know nothing about the Eternals, like the comics, but I'm certainly curious about it. It's one of those things. Marvel has kind of earned a sense of kind of benefit of the doubt at this point because they really have been putting out consistently very good movies despite whatever source material that they're thrown at. I distinctly remember Guardians of the Galaxy is what I kind of equate this to because Guardians of the Galaxy was a very niche comic, and I remember when it was announced, a lot of people were very wary of it. Some people made fun of it. You know, Rocket Raccoon, what a silly character. Ends up being a fantastic movie, wildly successful to the point where a sequel got made and they're working on another one. So yeah, even though I don't know much about the Eternals, I wouldn't be shocked if it's fantastic, tremendous, and I end up loving it. And the other big movie that again we've known about, but now it has a release date is Black Panther 2. Two really fun developments with that. Obviously, they don't have no information about the movie yet because it's so early on in development. But they did have a release date, May 6th, 2022. It's a long ways off, but it'll be here before we know it. But more importantly, at least for me, is that Ryan Coogler was announced as the director for Black Panther 2. Ryan Coogler is an awesome director. I love his work. He directed the first Black Panther, and it was fantastic. So very excited that he is still on with the project. Definitely gives me hope that Black Panther 2 has potential to be just as good as Black Panther 1. Yeah, that was pretty much it for the Marvel movies that were talked about. But let's talk about the elephant in the room for a second here in regards to Marvel and their movies. A movie that certainly was not talked about is a future Spider-Man sequel, and that's because there has been a bit of a falling out between Sony and Disney in regards to Spider-Man. So this is the part of the video where I'm probably going to be getting into a little bit of Marvel Endgame and Spider-Man Far From Home spoilers. If you don't want anything spoiled for you, I'll try to put a timestamp here. If not, check the time code down below. You can just skip this portion of it. And yeah, you don't have to worry about it. All right, I'm going to try to bang through this as quickly as I can. I have a lot of feelings about it, a lot of emotions about it, but we still got a lot to talk about. So basically, long story short, Sony, while Disney owns Marvel and basically all distribution rights and all of those things for like almost all of Marvel's library at this point, the one thing they don't own is the film rights for Spider-Man. So putting Spider-Man in a feature film. That still belongs to Sony. Back in the day, of course, you remember the movies with Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, all those were Sony pictures. Sony, after The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was so-so, ended up going into a deal with Disney and Marvel specifically to basically co-opt Spider-Man to allow them to use Spider-Man for X number of years. That has run its course, so it was time to renegotiate, and negotiations have basically fallen through thus far. So as of this moment, Disney does not have the rights to use Spider-Man on screen, which means that Spider-Man is no longer in the MCU, which is absolute lunacy. Spider-Man is certainly one of the major focal points of the MCU right now. Again, last chance. If you really want to skip, I'm about to go into heavy duty spoilers here. 3, 2, 1. One. Okay. So anyway, so Spider-Man in the MCU is a major part of it. I mean, in the most recent Far From Home movie, they basically have set him up as the next leader, as the next Iron Man. In a lot of respects, the character of Peter Parker within this universe, within this iteration of Spider-Man, has Tony Stark kind of replacing the Uncle Ben character. Tony Stark is the one who discovered him. Tony's the one who has inspired him to kind of be Spider-Man. He's the one he models himself after, even in death, especially in death. He's still inspiring Spider-Man, and he's trying to be what he aspires to be. So right now, Sony has plans to continue this current Spider-Man series, just not in the MCU, and I think that's impossible. I think one can't exist without the other because the MCU is so integrated within Spider-Man. It's hard enough for me to wrap my brain around the fact that the MCU would basically have to just ignore the existence of Spider-Man in future films. But for the movies to then ignore the MCU almost seems more egregious because, again, the MCU has completely shaped these characters, particularly Spider-Man. So the whole thing seems crazy. It seems unconscionable to have all these Marvel movies without Spider-Man. I know that they didn't have Spider-Man for the longest time in the MCU, but now that they have him, it's crazy that they don't. So the basic sticking point is money, as it usually is. So the agreement that they've currently been working under, and the one that Sony wants to continue with, is that Disney gets 5% first viewing, which basically means on basically that opening weekend, Disney gets 5% of the profits, which, yeah, that's kind of low, especially for the studio that's producing it and everything else. And again, when we're talking about billion-dollar movies, that's why money has become a thing. Disney is countered with wanting to go 50-50 with Sony. Sony's obviously refused that. Again, that does seem a little bit high, and that's currently where things are now. So again, I've been angry. I was freaking out about this, but now that I've a little more rational brain, thought about it a little bit more, I don't think this is over yet. Obviously, we just had a Spider-Man movie. We're not going to have there's not an Avengers movie scheduled for some time. We don't necessarily need to see Spider-Man on screen in a Marvel movie for a little while now. Which means that there's more cushion to actually get a deal done. Remember, this wasn't like a hard deadline, now we're done. They can still negotiate this, and from what I understand, there's probably still negotiations going on behind the scenes. I ultimately think, and maybe this is naive of me, that this will eventually get done. We're talking about billions upon billions upon billions of dollars. I think that this will get done. 5% first viewing and 50-50 are a long ways off. That does feel like the start of a negotiation, not an endpoint of a negotiation. There's been some conspiracies, and I wouldn't necessarily rule it out, that Disney or someone has basically kind of leaked that talks fell apart to try to get the public perception against Sony, which seems to be working well because it does seem like most people are going after Sony in this case because, again, Marvel has built up a bit of a goodwill in regards to this stuff. So this is not a closed story, I don't think. I think there's still more to come with all of this. But yeah, that's just kind of my theory and talk about all of this. I don't think it's done yet. I do think ultimately it will get done. But at the moment, it's kind of scary, kind of frustrating that Spider-Man is on the MCU. It's ridiculous. How's that possible? But obviously, Marvel movies aren't all what they talked about at D23. There were plenty of other movies that are coming out that they also explored, particularly some of the live-action movies. We have Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, that's coming out relatively soon. I never saw the first Maleficent. It's one of my secret shames. So I haven't really gotten too into this so far. Jungle Cruise, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, another one of those movies that is based off a ride that is coming to the big screen. It looked like it was a very fun presentation. It's going to be interesting. Look, I love The Rock, so that's always fun. And one of the best action stars in the world right now. The movies based off rides have had definitely an interesting track record. You have your Pirates of the Caribbean, which is done, wildly successful and it's been super well received. Then you have Haunted Mansion, not as well received, not as successful. So who knows where Jungle Cruise will fall in that. The only fear that I have is that it might be a little similar to the Jumanji movie that just had The Rock. Hopefully that's not the case, but we'll see about that. They showed some images from Cruella, which is going to be starring Emma Stone as the titular Cruella de Vil. Basically, I get the impression this is very similar to Maleficent, where we're taking a live-action movie and seeing it from the villain's perspective. We have had live-action 101 Dalmatians back in the day starring Glenn Close, so this should be a different look at it. It's supposed to come out in 2021, so still plenty of time before we see that one. The picture looks kind of cool. She looks a little bit like Helena Bonham Carter, which is unusual, but we'll see how that plays out. The other big live-action movie based off of an animated film is Mulan. Mulan's going to be coming out in March 2020, and they showed some more footage from that. I have not seen the footage yet, so I can't comment. The big sort of story going on there is that the lead actress from Mulan was not present. Let me get her name for you real quick. Crystal Liu, Crystal Liu, who plays Mulan, was not present at D23, which was a bit of a story because Crystal Liu's been a bit of a story lately. A lot of controversy surrounding her. If you've been following the news, there's a lot of stuff going on in Hong Kong right now. There's a lot of protesting, and there's been a lot of police brutality on the protesters. She had tweeted something to the effect of, or blogged something to the effect of supporting the police in Hong Kong, which has led to a lot of people, a lot of backlash, and a lot of people starting hashtag boycott Mulan. So I don't think it's a coincidence that she was not present at D23, probably to just try to get away from all of that controversy. So yeah, that's definitely something to keep an eye on. Again, I'm inclined to believe it's probably going to blow over a little bit by the time we get a little bit closer to the actual release date. Because again, it's not for, still a while now. But yeah, so that's kind of an interesting story to keep an eye on. But of course, the big live-action movie that was talked about and that will be coming out very soon is Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, Episode 9 of the Star Wars saga. Star Wars had a lot of stuff going on. Well, we'll get into all that in a minute. But yeah, Rise of Skywalker. Actually, you know what? Let's do that first. They had a TV show called The Mandalorian. That they announced for Disney Plus. Again, this is something we had known about for a while. That is going to be, I think, featuring Boba Fett or something along those lines. There's going to be Ewan McGregor is going to be reprising his role as Obi-Wan Kenobi in an Untitled project, so that seems kind of fun. That's all I can think of off the top of my head. So yeah, so let's get back to Rise of Skywalker. So Rise of Skywalker, they released a trailer. I actually got to see the trailer today because it finally got released publicly. It looks awesome. So the big thing that everybody's been talking about on there is Dark Rey. There's some imagery in the new Star Wars movie of Rey, our main protagonist, or one of our main protagonists in the Sith hood with the cool foldable red double lightsaber. And there's been a lot of speculation as to what that means. Is she turning? Is she a clone? Is this a different version of her? Is this a dream? Is this a vision? So kind of exactly what the trailer's supposed to do. It leads to a lot of speculations and questions. So yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to this movie. I've never been like a crazy big Star Wars person. I enjoy the movies. I enjoy the numbered movies. But yeah, so I mean, I don't kind of live and die off of them as some of the mega Star Wars fans do. So I'm looking forward to this movie. I think they've been really pushing that it's the end of a 9-movie saga, not a 3-movie saga, which is kind of cool. Really, is a shame that Carrie Fisher passed away. I do think that she is in this movie to a point. I think there's a lot of archival footage and things like that, but yeah, I do think that this movie would have explored her a little bit more. I got we'll talk about Star Wars more probably another day and get more into it. But yeah, again, the trailer looked very cool. The trailer got me excited for it. So far, both the trailers that have come out have got me excited for it. So definitely looking forward to when this movie comes out. But of course, the last thing to talk about from D23 is the animated movies that are going to be coming out. Really, all kind of in the near future. Nothing too far off. We have Onward. They talked a little bit more about Onward. Heard a little bit more about that. That's where we got to hear from Tom Holland for the first time since all the Spider-Man stuff went down. Chris Pratt is his co-star in that. That's going to be the Pixar movie. It's going to be coming out in March of next year. Basically, it's going to be following a little more plot details got released. We've seen a trailer for it already, a teaser trailer for it already. Basically, it's going to be following two brothers who live in this world of magic in kind of like the modern world. So definitely an interesting idea, interesting take. Very curious to see it. The other Pixar movie that was really fleshed out. Again, I'm pretty sure this had been announced already, but now it's been much more fleshed out. Is a movie called Soul. Still, we don't know a ton of details about it. They said so far the film asks the ultimate questions: why am I here? Where did I come from? What am I here for? And with a movie like Soul, definitely gonna be very deep. They did announce the cast for Soul. It's gonna have Jamie Foxx, who's gonna be the first black protagonist in the history of the first black main character or lead character, I guess. In the history of Pixar, so that's kind of cool. So yeah, Jamie Foxx, Tina Fey, Questlove, Felicia Rashad, and Daveed Diggs. So I get the impression this is going to be a musical-ish movie just based on that lineup. Also the fact that Jamie Foxx's character is a band teacher who has a passion for jazz, thus the name Soul. It's also involving an actual like embodiment of soul. That's going to be Tina Fey's character. So yeah, it sounds super interesting. It does sound a lot like Inside Out and like that sort of concept. But look, I'm all for original stuff coming from Pixar. So definitely excited to see this again. Might be kind of like Coco, where they kind of keep going down that musical route, but we'll have to see. But yeah, very excited for original Pixar stuff. I'm very excited to be kind of moving away from sequels for a little bit because I think original Pixar is where they do best. The only concern I have is that Onward is coming out in March of 2020. Soul is coming out in June of 2020. I hate when the two Pixar releases or two Disney anime releases are like right next to each other like that. So that's unfortunate, but the schedule kind of is what it is. But it should be good regardless. Looking forward to both of those. Yeah, good times for Pixar. But of course, Disney wouldn't be left out from the animated feature stuff. Of course, the big one was Frozen 2, which will be coming out in a few months. They didn't talk too much about the plot. They did introduce two new characters who are going to meet. We have Evan Rachel Wood, who will be playing Queen Iduna, and they got a clip of her singing. Of course, I didn't see it. Can't comment on it. And also Sterling K. Brown will be playing Lieutenant Matthias, who basically he's going to be a lieutenant who leads a group of soldiers who have been stuck in an enchanted forest. So, two new characters. They've talked about some new songs. They were actually they showed off one of the new songs called "Into the Unknown." Again, didn't hear it, can't comment on it, but yeah. So they had a little bit more information on there. Frozen 2. Man, that's one of those ones you don't need to advertise it, right? It's going to make money hand over fist. Again, I'm always cautious about sequels, but we'll see. Hopefully it's just as good as the first one. At least fingers crossed to it. But the one that I'm arguably more interested in, just because we've known about Frozen 2 already, is they have announced a new movie, a new animated movie that's going to be coming out in November of 2020. So we knew they were working on a movie called Gigantic, which is basically going to be a retelling of Jack and the Beanstalk. But that movie was canceled some time ago. And in that time, we knew they were working on a movie, but we really haven't heard any details as to what they've been working on. And we finally got a lot of details at D23. It's going to be called Raya and the Last Dragon. It's basically, from what I understand, it's going to be a movie that is going to be taking place in the land of dragons. A lot of Chinese influences from what it looks like in terms of the filmmaker and the cast. Yeah, and basically it's going to be following a character. Let's see if I have the name here. Raya. Oh, of course. It's only called Raya and the Last Dragon. Why would it not be called Raya? It's going to be following Raya, who is a warrior from this magical kingdom, who is looking, gets a crew, and is looking to find the last dragon to bring light to their world. The cast that they have announced are going to be Cassie Steele, who's going to be Raya, and Aquafina, who's going to be Sisu, who I believe is the last dragon. So, yeah, again, not a ton of information we've seen about it yet. We have seen some concept art and things like that. But, yeah, obviously, look, Disney animated film, I'm already in. It does look interesting. I'm going to be definitely trying to keep track of more of this stuff to see more stuff that kind of goes on with it. So, yeah, always exciting. Anytime they announce a new Disney movie, I'm excited. A new Disney animated movie, I'm very excited about it. I'm very excited to see this. And again, it's not a sequel, which makes me very happy because that's kind of what we've been getting lately. Much rather would start to see some more original stuff again and getting just that with Raya and the Last Dragon. So definitely looking forward to that. Oh my goodness. So that was a lot of stuff to unpack, a lot of stuff to talk about. I'm sure I have missed a ton of things. If you want to talk about those things, leave a comment down below. I'll be sure to kind of give my thoughts and feelings on them as they come up if it's something that we didn't talk about here. A couple things about the channel, and then I'll get out of here. Or about the channels, actually. One, yes, I know Rescuers Down Under, still waiting on it. I have been unbelievably swamped at work. Like, take my normal Swamp Day work and twofold it. I won't get into it, but basically administration's made a lot more work than they had to, so it's been crazy there. So I just haven't had time to do it. I am working on it. It's getting there, but yeah. So that will be coming relatively soon. The nice thing is after that video, I have a plan for a new type of video that I think will be a little bit quicker to make. So hopefully we'll be able to get 2 out in fairly quick succession, so we can move right back into the next Disney Guy review, which I'm sure you will all be looking forward to because it's one of the big ones. So yeah, still working on that. JTDG Gaming, bit more of an issue there right now. So when I record my game footage, after I load up a bunch, because it does take a lot of space on my computer, I load them onto a thumb drive of mine. Of course, that thumb drive apparently is now gone missing. So there's a whole bunch of my most recent playthrough through Chain of Memories that is just completely missing. So unless a miracle happens and it turns up somewhere, though boy, if I turn this place inside out looking for it, what's going to probably end up happening is there's going to be a lengthy delay on JTG Gaming because I'm going to have to go back and basically do a second playthrough to kind of get back to where I was and then re-record to get those parts. I have some parts from the later parts of the series, and obviously the beginning parts are already kind of on YouTube for my patrons. But yeah, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to release the rest of the Kingdom Hearts series kind of in the order that it's going. And then there's going to be a little bit of delay while I catch up on the Chain of Memory stuff, and then hopefully everything will be back to normal and I'll stop losing thumb drives. That's the plan, at least. Again, subscribe to that channel if you haven't already. It's still very small, but slowly growing, slowly getting there. We're kind of working out the kinks. It's a new channel, so you're going to have some things like this come up. Now we know. And then the last thing was, I kind of wanted to ask you guys. So, I mean, obviously we talked about a bunch of Disney Plus stuff that's coming out relatively soon. Disney Plus is coming out in November. I'm certainly going to be jumping on the bandwagon and getting it. I'm going to try to get it as soon as possible. So what I want to know is from you guys. I've been kind of kicking around the idea of like doing sort of videos in this sort of style, talking about different stuff on Disney Plus and some of the new stuff. Obviously, we all know I don't have the time to do like full-blown reviews like my Disney Guy reviews for everything on Disney Plus. It's just not feasible. But I could certainly do some videos of this where we kind of sit down and talk about shows. So is that something you guys would be interested in? Would you be interested in seeing kind of a recurring Disney Plus series on here where we kind of sit down and talk about some shows on there? Is it something that should be Patreon exclusive? Is it something that should be here? So let me know what your guys' thoughts are on all of that. We still have a few months to kind of figure out what to do with that. But, I'm the Disney guy, right? And there's this bunch of Disney content coming out. It would seem wrong to like not talk about it, do anything with it. So it's just something that I'm kind of throwing out there. So let me know what your guys' thoughts are on all of that. All right, I think I've rambled far too much for one night. Oh my goodness, it's 3 a.m. here for those wondering how crazy my work schedule is that I have to record these videos so late at night. But so yeah, I'm a little tired and my throat hurts a little bit. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up here. So thank you guys so much for watching this. I'm sure it's a very long video. Let me know your thoughts on all the stuff D3. If you want to talk about any of these things in particular or more in depth, leave a comment down below. We'll have a discussion about it. What are you excited for? What are you not excited for? All of that good stuff. Be sure to subscribe to this channel. Subscribe to JTG Gaming. Follow me on Twitter at Joe Disney Guy for updates with myself and my various channels. Check out my Patreon to get some exclusives and to get exclusive videos and find out different ways to help support the channel. Make sure you hit the notification bell because that way, with my erratic upload schedule, you always get notified as to when my videos are coming up. Thank you all so very much for watching and putting up with all my rambling, and I will see you all real soon.